Probably many times you have seen amazing white landscape pictures and you are wondering how they got created. If you are thinking that some kind of special camera is needed or maybe super wide angle lens, then answer for most cases is no. Such photos are usually created by a series of pictures taken in some specific way and merged into one panorama. And this is what exactly I would like to show you today, how to create panorama. This is simple, but some tricks are needed. So I will show you everything, what gear is needed, shooting techniques, and how to merge and edit them in Lightroom. Let's go further. Okay guys, so what is panorama? I think this is quite obvious, but let me quickly explain to be on the same page. So panorama is the picture which give you wider view than you can take with one single shot. Most popular are horizontal panoramas like this one, but as well you can do vertical panoramas. In this tutorial I will focus on horizontal, but the same rule applies for vertical. One more thing, here we are not talking about panoramas you can do with your smartphone just by turning on panorama mode and moving around slowly. No, here we will be focusing on high resolution solid professional panoramas. So why you would like to do panorama? From my point of view there are three main reasons. First of all, you do not have wide angle lens, or just generally you would like to capture bigger view than your lens can do for you. The second reason is you would like to have bigger resolution. For example, my camera can do only 4000 pixels high and 6000 pixels wide pictures. But with my camera I managed to create that panorama which is 6000 pixels high and 12,000 pixels wide. So resolution is much higher, and you can see how much details we can see here. And the last reason is you would like to avoid distortion. If you're using wide angle lens, very often you're getting distortion. Cool. So let's go further. Okay, so what kind of gear you need to have to shoot panorama? First of all, you need to have camera. DSLR or mirrorless cameras are a great option, and in some cases smartphone should be also enough. Your gear doesn't need to have any special panorama function, but what is very recommended is it should let you shoot manually. So what I mean is that you need to set up exposure time and aperture manually to get exactly the same effects for every panorama picture. If you will do that differently, you are getting big risk of getting issues once pictures are merged into panorama. Apart of that, your camera should let you lock focus. If not, then you may have issues after merging pictures into panorama. I think every lens has that option, so you should be not afraid if you are using DSLR or mirrorless. Apart of that, I strongly recommend to shoot in RAW, but this is not mandatory. You will have more options in editing later, and per my view, better quality at the end. Last thing, not needed for every scenario, but for some specific, is tripod. So if you have tripod, it may be beneficial for you as well. Okay guys, so what we can do, or maybe how we should shoot pictures to create the best materials to let Lightroom merge them later into panorama. You know you need to shoot few pictures, but if you will do that in that way, this is quite obvious. This information will go to your camera and later to Lightroom. So there will be no enough information to merge those pictures into panorama. No miracles here. Okay, quite obvious what we can do. If we will do such shooting, looks better, but still some information is missing. We are losing some info on top and bottom, and our final panorama is less high as it could be. Next step is quite obvious. If we are shooting in that way, in theory, it looks perfect. Okay, this is coming to Lightroom. So theoretically, Lightroom can produce for you such panorama. But in practice, on those lines, there will be issues. You will be not able to stick pictures perfectly, and there will be not enough information. So what we can do in practice to manage with that issue is that we need to overlap pictures a bit. As you can see here, first and second is overlapped about 30%. Theory is saying something between 30 and 60 you can use to get such good effects. So here I choose 30 and shooting further, you can see pictures are overlapping. So if Lightroom is getting such information, theoretically such panorama can be created. And this is almost true if you are using tripod. But in practice, again, it will be a bit worse. Even with tripod, but especially if you are shooting by hand, what I used to do, if you will be shooting, you will be going slightly up or down, or maybe up and down. And as you can imagine, you are losing some information on top and on the bottom. And this is what in practice Lightroom can create for you. Okay, not very bad, but even with that issue, we can manage a bit. Again, if we will overlap those pictures a bit more, not 30, but 60%. And this is something what works great for me if I'm shooting by hand. Even if I will go very bad, as you can see here, going up and down, there is a lot of area overlapped. So finally, a lot of information is coming to Lightroom. With this shooting, this is coming to Lightroom, and this is what Lightroom can produce for you. I hope those examples were quite clear and you understand how we can do that to prepare right pictures to let Lightroom merge it later. Okay, let's go a bit more into practice. As mentioned earlier, it is very recommended if your camera can do manual mode shooting, and for some specific situations it is recommended you are using tripod. Let's talk about 3 different cases. Case 1, if you are not using manual mode, but you are shooting auto or half manual, and you are not using tripod. So this is very quick and easy option if you are following the rules I said earlier about overlapping the pictures, but you are getting really big risk of poor quality effects. So this is the reason why I do not recommend that option. Case 2. Case 2 is if you are using manual mode, but you are not using tripod. From my point of view, this is very interesting option. It is quick and flexible, especially as you don't need to carry your tripod. And this is really very good for many situations, maybe even for most cases. There is small disadvantage of that case. You need to have some experience in manual mode shooting, and also once you are on field, you need to spend some time to set up manual. But this is really good for most cases, per my view. Case 3 is once you are using manual mode and you are using tripod. So from my point of view, this is needed and great for low light conditions, or if you are using big f-stops. For any situation, once you need to have longer time of exposure, also it's giving you better effects in terms of coverage of panorama, as you are not going up and down as on the previous examples. Disadvantage of that is you need to carry and set up your tripod, so it costs your energy and also some time once you are on the field. Apart of that, the same disadvantage like in case 2. You need to have some experience in manual mode shooting and spend some time once you are on the field to set up it rightly. So I definitely do not recommend to use case 1. I think case 2 is very interesting and good for the most cases. Case 3 is needed for specific conditions. One more thing I wanted to mention is you need to lock your focus. If you will not do that, you may get a different focus on your pictures and you will see issues once pictures are merged into Panorama. If this video is useful for you so far, I really appreciate if you click like button. It will help this video to be visible to more people and it will help me as well. Thank you very much. So let's go into practice. You can see what I'm doing. I'm standing in one place, I'm looking through my camera and I'm moving around to try decide what I will capture into Panorama. Once decided, I'm pushing shutting button into the middle to let my camera set up the focus. Right now lens is in auto mode. Once focus is set up, I'm switching button from auto to manual. So my camera will not change the focus later. So far I was not shooting, starting shooting from left till the right with that 30 to 60% of coverage. So I'm shooting like this one. And you can see the effects. Let's try to do Panorama in Lightroom. As you can see, I already prepared 8 pictures. This is different place, but exactly the same technique applied. What means I was shooting in manual mode, I had my focus locked, and it was shot by hand, so no any tripod. So those pictures are just raw, without any editing. Only first is edited, but I will explain you why. If you are watching other tutorials, sometimes guys are saying you that if you have different exposure or particular pictures, you may adjust this exposure before merging. Unfortunately, this is totally not true. Lightroom will ignore everything what you edited. If you have broken exposure, you will have issues later. So Lightroom is just merging the original files into one panorama. One small difference is that if you will edit first picture, everything what you edited on the first one will be applied to the final panorama. But again, it makes no sense. First of all, once you click reset on the final panorama, everything will be reverted to exactly the same situation like you merge the rows. And the second is that it makes no sense to focus on editing only part of the view. The best is if you firstly merge panorama, you have full view, and only after that you decide how it should be edited. But to show you what I mean and to prove that I'm right, I will merge this panorama with first picture edited, even if it makes no difference really, and after that I will reset, so you will see pure raw picture without any editing. So what I'm doing, I selected all pictures and clicking right, going to photo merge and choosing panorama, or I can just click Ctrl M. So Lightroom is creating panorama preview for me. Needs to wait a moment. Okay, and you can see how it looks like. Okay, but you can see we have few options. So first of all, let's start with projection. So spherical, cylindrical, and perspective. I never find useful perspective. It looks like pictures from Google Street. Always there is big distortion and I find it totally not useful, but usually I'm choosing from spherical and cylindrical. Spherical is like this picture will be inside the sphere, and cylindrical is like picture would be inside of cylinder. So this is the difference. In the practice, you may see bit different distortion at bit different proportions. So you can decide. Okay, and about the next two options, boundary warp and fill the edges. On first glance, it may looks the same, but it is definitely not, and you need to feel the difference. For sure, you can notice the white space here. This is because I have not shot ideally and there is no information there. So if I would click fill the edges, you can see some kind of magic had happened. I mean, Lightroom filled up the empty spaces, even if there were no information about that. But as you can imagine, it is not perfect. Lightroom analyzed the picture and tried to predict what can be in missing parts. So as you can see here in the bottom, some parts of the grass got copy-paste, and this looks good. Here, situation is a bit worse, and also here on those hills it could be better. But anyway, I think this is amazing, and if you like, you can use spot removal tool and you can fix it manually, so even you can accept that. If we move up, so for the clouds, this is perfect. Okay, so this is about fill the edges. So your picture got not distorted, got not adjusted. Just the missing parts here got filled up by predicted values by Lightroom. But boundary warp is working totally differently. I mean, also the aim is to fill up this empty space, as you can see as I'm moving it slowly right till 100%. But Lightroom is not predicting anything. It is not adding any more information. It is using only information already captured, but it is transforming your picture to let it fill up the whole space. So theoretically, it may create some distortion. It depends how you shoot that picture. For this one, per my view, this is really beneficial. No any additional distortion. Lines are really straight, so really great option for that. And here you can see nothing got predicted. Everything is taken from the information already available. So I think that is perfect. But just for that exercise, I will reset it to show you other options. Okay, apart of that, we have auto crop. From my point of view, totally not useful. Lightroom is trying to crop your image to not show the empty space. I always prefer to decide what will be visible or not, so I see no benefits from that option. And auto settings, Lightroom can edit this picture for you. You can use that as the basic settings, but I personally prefer to edit everything by myself. Create stack will just create stack from your pictures and it will not impact on the final image. So we can click the merge. And as you can see here, Lightroom is creating Panorama. So it will take some time, so we need to wait. Okay, as you can see, Panorama got created. And as you can see, all edits from the first picture got applied here. But as I mentioned earlier, those are just edits, just settings. If I will click reset, everything is resetted. So Panorama looks exactly in the same way like you merge it from raw pictures without any edits. So this is what I strongly recommend. And if you would like to add some edits, you can do that right now. Even you can copy edits from the other pictures or use some presets. Okay, let's try to paste. And you can see I copy paste the settings from the first one, and again we have exactly the same view. Cool. Okay, so next step is to crop the picture. Okay, but as this is Panorama, I do not care too much for proportion, so I'm unlocking it. Okay, trying to take as much as is possible, but of course I'm trying to make picture as interesting as is possible. So looking for right view. Okay, so I think something like that is okay. Guys, I showed you step by step how you can merge pictures into one panorama in Lightroom and how options looks like. And here you can see the final edits. But editing itself, I mean light, shadows, colors, has been copy-paste. If you are interested to see how I edited it, I'm just clicking reset button and we'll do edits step by step right now. Okay, so let's do those edits quickly together. If you'd like to see how I'm editing landscapes, please watch my other videos. Here we will go just very quickly without special explanations. Okay, but what I did, I cropped it. Of course, that is clear. And by default, I'm going to remove chromatic aberration. Not sure if this is visible somewhere. I think it is not, but just in case. Okay, cool. So this is done. You can see picture is a bit flat. I mean, maybe looks a bit overexposed and maybe a bit underexposed in some places. So just putting highlights down and you can see the difference. Okay, quite big. And putting shadows up. Probably too much, but let's start with that. As we can see, a lot of the details here. Okay, right now. Cool. So, as it looks still flat, I'm trying to increase the contrast. Okay, and clarity. I really like clarity. It makes quite interesting effects. And maybe a bit of dehaze. Still not happy about results. So let's see how blacks looks like. Okay, no, we cannot do too much. I clicked just Alt and trying to adjust the blacks, but they are okay. And the same I'm trying to do with whites. Okay, no too much options. So maybe I will just put exposure down. Okay, and right now I think it looks better. Trying again with whites. Okay, don't want to overexpose. Okay, I think right now picture looks much better. Before, okay, and after. So yes, I think it is better. So what else I can do? I can work with vibrance. So I can decrease it to make it a bit more moody. But for that picture, I think I would rather prefer to increase it. Maybe a bit. And the rest colors, I think I will not change from saturation. I will rather focus on particular colors here. So firstly, I'm changing blue. I mean luminance of blue. So you can see more details are visible in the sky, and I think for that picture this is better. And maybe I will try to increase greens a bit, or yellows. As you can see, there is a lot of yellows in the tree, in the grass and in the trees, but maybe I will touch it only a bit, but increase the greens. And let's try with saturation of greens. Okay, maybe a bit better, and let's see how yellows will impact. Okay, so if I'm decreasing it, it's getting a bit more moody look. If I'm increasing, I think this is a bit of oversaturated. Something like that looks better per my view. Okay, so this is what we got. Cool. And you can see this is before and this is after. Before and after. I hope this video was useful for you. If you have any remarks, please leave them in comments. I really appreciate if you may click like button and subscribe to my channel to see more videos like that in the future. Thank you very much, guys.